In today's world of market volatility and uncertainty, your retirement plans need to be front and center. With ever-changing tax laws, healthcare worries, and an unpredictable stock market, don't overlook the vulnerability in your retirement planning. Protecting your family and estate will be difficult with shifting policies in Washington. It's more important than ever to keep an eye on retirement.
Hi, and welcome into Eye on Retirement. I'm Matt Goolsby, filling in for Rick Everett. Today, I'm with Market Advisory Group's panel, and we're looking at what happens when your retirement plans unexpectedly change. When you have your retirement date set, but circumstances cause you to move up that date, what needs to be done to facilitate that change? That's exactly why we've gathered a team of professionals for this episode. Today, our panel includes Jonathan McCoy, financial advisor and founding partner of Market Advisory Group, Susan Curtis from Market Tax Services, Doug Schauter from Eidelman Law Firm, and Corey Hebert, healthcare advisor from Market Medicare Advisors. Welcome in, everyone. You know, Jonathan, you've got an interesting story to share with us today, and this is about something where someone that was getting ready to retire, and all of a sudden their company changed the rules on them as far as their pension plan was concerned, right?
Yeah, it's thinking about the fact that David thought he had a few years of runway left, getting prepared for retirement, had been putting money into his pension, or his employer had at the time, and saving in his 401k, and he felt, his three-legged bar stool of his 401k, his pension, and his Social Security, he was set. But he needed a few more years. He wanted to get to that full retirement age. He was fine doing the work that he's doing. But one major thing changed, and that is the fact that his employer was forced to change the rules on their pension because the pension plan had been underfunded, and the government had to come in to try to rescue the pension plan from being basically non-existent for both the previous retirees and employees, but also David and all future retirees. So David started looking at these changes and restrictions that were occurring, and he knew that he was going to need to move his retirement date up. Otherwise, there may not be a retirement there left for him.
Yeah, and so, we see this so frequently. Large employers either fall on hard times or they gradually become obsolete because of technology or whatever the
Society's needs change. I mean, we talk about AI. How many companies might that eliminate from the economy?
So true. I mean, so what do you say to someone like David that is frightened at the prospect of having to maybe work longer, and this is totally changing the whole scenario that he'd had mapped out here unexpectedly on him?
Well, David was in a great position. He had done better than he thought he had done at saving for retirement relative to what his income needs were going to be. He'd always lived well within his means, always kept very low debt levels. His wife was a good worker and has a good amount in her own retirement savings, but he was never able to see the big picture. And when we zoom out, quite frankly, if we had talked with David 5 or even 10 years prior, he's never worked with a financial advisor, but for David in particular, if we had met with him 5 to 10 years prior, he probably would have seen that now may have been the actual ideal time for him to retire, regardless of what was happening with his pension. So I think a lot of this was the stress of an unexpected situation that triggered him to come and talk to us. He was actually referred to another coworker to us, and it just happened to be right place, right time. The numbers were going to work out really well for David, but there were a lot of things that needed to be put in place. There's a lack of estate planning. He didn't have a healthcare backup plan. We needed to talk about the tax exposure he was going to have both on his pension and his 401k. So those ingredients can be incredibly overwhelming without the effort and help and support of a team around you.
And you said he was a referral, and we had someone last week call in and say, well, why are you guys on national TV if you don't have offices in every state? We do work with people by phone, but this person was a referral. It was convenient that they could come into the office. Yeah. But we can't handle all that by phone or over the internet or video conference.
There's so much that we can do. We talk about technology and evolution, right? A lot of our industry has been stuck 30, 40 years in the past in terms of, we built this company because we needed people to be able to come and meet with us. But now we're working at branching out. We've had clients that have moved out of the state, out of the cities, out of our initial market areas, and it's not interrupted the functionality and our ability to support their financial needs.
And so do you experience this with people often, that the struggle of people being able to meet their retirement goals on the deadline or how they maybe originally envisioned them? Or do you find that people often get maybe a rock thrown in the pond, and the ripple effect.
They don't know. Yeah, they don't know how big the wave is going to be or how big that rock was. And that was ultimately it with David. Is fortunately what he thought was a boulder being thrown into the pond turned out to be probably the triggering event that's going to allow him to have 3 or 4 extra years of retirement that he didn't recognize he would have before. So this was an alleviating experience, and David's still getting used to the idea of being retired because all he saw was working for the next 4 years of his life.
But can you imagine someone being out there just trying to navigate all these things on their own because you don't know the tax considerations?
He was scared the first time.
Sure, and that's understandable. It happens a lot. So, from our perspective, David sort of like a blank slate because you could just go to work with him. And he didn't have an advisor, but he didn't have all these other things going on.
Most folks that we meet with already have some of these services in place that they are paying someone, a licensed professional, to provide them, right?
And so now David, he's considering his situation. I mean, he told you probably a couple stories, right? Mm-hmm. And so what were some of the stories that he told you, as far as when this pension plan was going, getting cut in half and he was getting all these unknown questions? I mean, he got referred from someone else that you probably helped, right?
Yeah, so there's a lot of circumstances that reminded me of David's circumstance and people being able to, in some cases retire a little bit earlier than they may have expected before. And sometimes it's just talking and getting a better perspective on what situation you're in. And one of the stories that I was walking David through with some other folks that had hired us recently that we were looking at, their biggest concern was they didn't want to have to work forever. They didn't know if they had saved enough. They felt like they had too much debt. And a lot of these concerns a lot of people bring us to. So from a big picture standpoint, one of the biggest things that David had not addressed, in addition to the taxes, the investments, retiring early, was estate planning. What was going to happen with his family, his wife? If he wasn't around to be that provider for the household any longer, what are some of the things that he's going to need to do, and how can Doug and the estate planning team step in to assist in that?
I was going to say, I know that you're a financial advisor, but you're not an estate planning attorney, so you must have gone down the hall or pulled in one of our estate planning attorneys.
I'm a pretty brave person, but I know where the limits are and when you're being too dangerous with somebody's situation. Yeah.
So Doug Chowder with Eidelman Law Firm, I told you I was going to get that right, and I'm getting it right. I'm working on that. When someone has no estate plan, I'm sure it feels like they don't know where to turn.
Yeah, and you were talking earlier about people's circumstances being similar. Well, with the estate planning processes, everybody's got the same circumstance. We're all going to have to deal with this issue at some point, but each person's individual situation is going to be different and has to be played into that. So we sat down with David and his wife and like to get a kind of an overview of where they're at currently in terms of their family, what their situation looks like. It looks at where they are financially, what their situation is, what assets do they have, what do they need to address.
Well, I know Jonathan hasn't mentioned this, but I'm aware. Because we've talked about this before the show started. His wife is substantially younger than him. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I find people need to consider there are the fact that if a spouse passes away, the surviving spouse may remarry, and there might need to be considerations there.
Sure, and a lot of times that's built into how a plan is set up, particularly if we're doing a little bit more involved estate planning where we might have a trust or something like that set up. A lot of times it is a situation where those types of things, because it's quite possible a spouse can survive their spouse for maybe 15, 20 years or more in some circumstances. So that there's a lot of differences. And obviously we deal with a lot of situations where folks may have a blended family or they've got different kinds of things that are affecting their life. So all of that comes into the consideration.
We talk so often about this team approach to retirement planning. If you're feeling stuck like David was before meeting with us, we'd love to meet with you for our MAG report process to assess your current plan. To start that process with us, just a 15-minute introductory phone call. So you can just reach out at 833-MAG-REPORT, or that's 833-MAG-REPORT, or you can check out our website at eyeonretirement.com. We can thank Josiah for that. There you can also watch past episodes or submit a question for us to possibly answer on a future episode. After this short break, we'll be back with Jonathan over at our Money Monitor right after this.
Out on the water, there is a moment. Perfect synchronization. the team working together in harmony to reach their goal. Now, imagine finding a team of financial professionals to help run your course down the river of retirement. Market Advisory Group is that team. Financial advisors, tax professionals, estate planning attorneys, and Medicare advisors. All in the same boat. If you don't have a team like this in one place, it can become a hassle to relay information between them. When you come to Market Advisory Group, we bring everyone together for you. To get you answers in real time. To help make sure you don't miss something that puts your unique plan off course. You shouldn't be the one doing all the work to keep your retirement on pace. You should have a team in the boat with you. Your voice telling them where you're at, where you'd like to end up, and how you want to get there. And at that point, everyone falls into sync, all pulling in the same direction, toward the same purpose. Your retirement's financial security. We are Market Advisory Group, proud sponsor of Shocker Rowing.
Hi, and welcome back into Ion Retirement. We're here at our Money Monitor with Jonathan McCoy to talk about the difference the team approach meant for this client, David. Jonathan, let's dive right in.
Yeah, so today we want to talk a little bit about what is the process most people are going through when they meet, not just with us, but any financial advisor for the first time. You know, there's a lot of bullet points. We talk about shopping around for retirement help. That can mean a lot of things to a lot of different people, right? So going through some of these common questions and concerns folks have when they first meet with us. Number one, when I'm hiring somebody to do a job for me, how much are they going to charge me? What are your fees? We'll talk a little more about that. What can I expect? What sort of services are you going to provide me? Both of us grew up with dads who were plumbers, right? We want to know what the job's going to cost and what can they help us with. Is the plumber here to help with a leak in the piping or a leak in the roof?
As most Americans will always ask with anything, what's this going to cost me? And it's always important to know what you're paying for.
Yep, and what you're going to receive in return for that payment. So how are you licensed? What is the job that you as the individual can do, and what are the other professionals in this corporation going to be able to do for me? So I'm your potential client here, Matt, in this case. So where will my money be held?
That's true. There's not a big vault in the back.
Well, and
there's different custodians.
So many people are used to, my money's always been in my 401k, right? So we get comfortable with those situations and we start to understand that there's going to have to be some uncomfortable changes, whether you've been with a financial advisor or a big financial institution or not. Change is not always comfortable. We're here to walk through a consultation process to make sure that we identify the details that need to be changed to help improve your retirement outlook.
Absolutely. So then what's another thing you need to consider here?
Last but not least, is who actually manages my money. Who are the people behind the scenes flipping the switches, making the investment management decisions to help determine how much or how little risk am I taking, how much am I having in stocks and bonds, where's my money going to be, who's got their eyes on the prize every minute of every day.
Okay. So what's some things maybe other people need to ask, or maybe some things they should consider?
This is not something that I wanted to point out in terms of people knowing to ask these questions, but actually more appropriately questions that we need to bring to the table as financial advisors for the folks that are seeking out these services.
So if someone's getting really true advice, advisory services, it's not just talking about the investments, there's more to just the investments.
You mentioned it on our podcast and radio show, Retire Hour. We don't know what we don't know, and you can't go to the internet to find out what you don't know. You have to know what you're looking for, and if you don't know what you're looking for, you need a guide.
It's true.
Right.
And so, yeah, you go to that internet search engine and say, hey, what do I not know that I need to know? And it doesn't kick you back all these things of, hey, you need to pay attention to this, you need to pay attention to this. It just doesn't work that way.
And it's overwhelming. When you're not the expert, you don't have the licenses. You know, we talked with Doug earlier about we don't know enough about estate planning to talk about it in an educated and productive fashion. But we go through these issues. How do I make sure I don't leave expensive gaps in my health coverage? Corey Hebert's going to come in the next segment, talk a little bit about how does that transition from employer coverage to Medicare work. What if I pass or my spouse passes away? How will our family and beneficiaries handle an inheritance? So this is a massive issue that's consistently unaddressed because we don't have regular access to estate planning services at the employer level. When you're working, there's more employers starting to offer some, maybe pay $5 a paycheck and you can use this legal assistance service to get a will in place and things, but you lose access to those services when you retire. What if tax rates increase? That's where our CPAs and tax team, we'll talk with Susan Curtis here shortly.
You think taxes are going to go up in the future?
Oh my goodness.
Really?
And it's a massively unaddressed issue.
It is. I mean, it's a big risk because most people have only saved in IRAs and 401ks.
About 70% of retirement savings in our country has not been taxed yet.
That's right. And so when people go to take those monies out in retirement, do you think taxes will be higher or lower in the future?
Well, we trust that they'll be lower, but we know they're not going to be, right? It's just not going to happen that way.
I don't think that's how it's going to happen.
And when we first got into this business together, you and I, Matt, it was, what if the market crashes? How do we protect people from those major losses? And it's still an ongoing concern. There's going to be a couple of major market drops during the majority of most people's retirement. How can you survive those market drops? What are the strategies to help sustain your income during those major downturns? Because the stock market will not supply your income needs if we see a 30, 40, 50% market crash.
It isn't. And I mean, I'm more of a, I think people need to pay attention to the tax risk because that's just probably the biggest unaddressed risk.
Exactly
I'm a
right.
firm believer in the U.S. economy, but you're right, there are retirement risks out there, and you need to have some of your money in a place where maybe it's sheltered from a lot of that market volatility.
But you hit it on the head. The bigger issue is taxes. Because if tax rates go up, automatically your money is worth less. And what's happening all around us every day? Inflation, all of these other big issue concerns that are very difficult to control. As a matter of fact, we're not in control of it. Even as good financial advisors working for our clients' benefit, we have to understand what can we control, risk, rate of return, targets, how much income do you need? What can we not control? Tax rates, inflation, market fluctuations. Think about these things ahead of time before you meet with your financial advisor to help you determine which issues are most pertinent to you.
All this stuff gets so complex. Income affects Medicare costs. Taxes can impact estate planning. There's a push and pull to all of this that can siphon money off of your nest egg if you don't have a team working together. Market Advisory Group, we're that team. To set up a 15-minute phone call, you can just call 833-MAG-REPORT. That's 833, the letters MAG for Market Advisory Group report, or you can check out our website at ionretirement.com. There you can set up a call with us, or you can watch past episodes where we highlight stories just like David's here, where retirement didn't go as planned. Now, in the next segment of Ion Retirement, we answer a couple of those viewer questions, and we'll be right back after this.
How confident are you in your current financial plan? Do you know with certainty how the recent market volatility will affect your future hopes and dreams? How much are you paying in taxes? And how much are you losing to unnecessary high fees? You didn't work to save this money so that you could spend your time worried in retirement. Now is the time to take charge of your finances so you can feel confident about your future. Call in during the next 30 minutes of today's show only to set up an absolutely complimentary, no obligation, full-blown financial review that will result in your own customized written plan. We'll start with a full-blown analysis of what you already have by running a report to untangle how much you are currently paying in fees, how you're allocated for risk, and what it's costing to work with your current advisor. Next, we'll identify your goals. Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? Where do you want to go, and who do you hope to go there with? Is your current financial plan set up to get you there without mishap? Let's design a roadmap to create a financial plan you can follow with confidence. Get the piece that so many people are missing from their retirement. Find out how having a written plan can make a difference to your retirement dreams. Call now to schedule your complimentary, no-obligation, full-blown financial review today.
Well, hi, and welcome back into Ion Retirement. Let's turn back to David's story that also ties into a listener question that we had. Or I say listener, well, I'm used to doing the radio show. I'm not used to hosting Rick's show here. But let's turn into a viewer question that also ties into David's story. And that viewer question goes, what happens if my spouse is carrying my health insurance, but they're significantly younger than me, and I decide to retire. And that kind of ties into what's going on here with David, because David is younger, no, David's older and his wife's younger, right?
Yeah, correct. So David's wife's going to be working a little longer than David, at least in terms of number of years out. They may work to about the same age, but you got a 7-year age gap. So we have this issue where David has actually carried his own health insurance through his own employer, but the plan all along has been she keeps working, he switches to her coverage. This is where Corey and the Market Medicare Advisory Group was able to step in and guide us through that process. And David was concerned about not knowing if that strategy was the most financially efficient for David and his wife.
So going over to Corey Hebert with Market Medicare Advisors, what was going on here? Because healthcare is its own, like you said, its own language.
Yeah, so the biggest thing that, and for David's scenario was, yes, David came in and he had a plan. I'm going to move over to my wife's insurance and that's going to get me all the way up to Medicare. And he had that plan because that was the only option that he had thought up in his head.
Right.
He didn't realize how many other options were out there. So for David's scenario, there were several different things that we had to look at. And number one was, David, you've been on this plan by yourself. You're going to retire before the end of the year, and there's only a couple months left in the end of this year. David, where are you at currently on your deductible and your max out of pocket? Because the first plan that we want to look at is the potential of COBRA. COBRA is more expensive. We don't like to pay more for healthcare than we need to. But David, if you only have $100 until you hit your max out of pocket on that plan, let's pay that higher premium at least for a couple months to get us to the end of the year and then maybe transition to your wife's plan there in January. David, your income is going to be going down a little bit because you no longer have that steady paycheck coming in every week, every other week. Because your income is going down, what kind of plans are now going to be available on the ACA, also known as the Marketplace or Affordable Care Act?
So much to think about.
He had so many more options than just, I need to move over to my wife's insurance. And that may still be the right option, but until you talk to somebody that knows all of those different flows.
And if this is someone just coming to you as a financial advisor, how in the heck can you answer all these
I
questions?
was lost. That's why I called Corey. That's why we have Market Medicare Advisors. I mean, it's a cohesive process. It's not a matter of go there for healthcare, go there for estate planning, go there for taxes, come to us for your investments.
Well, speaking of taxes, we need to hear from Susan. I mean, she provides valuable tax planning here. What was going on in David and his wife's situation here where maybe they could benefit from some tax planning?
Well, you know, with having the pre-tax accounts, the retirement accounts, he was more concerned with, well, how am I going to pay these taxes? How much is it going to cost me? Therefore, you know, by being able to work with him and do some tax planning, we're able to tell him, like, okay, this is what it's going to cost you. You know, is he utilizing the current tax bracket? You know, is there room to, you know, do a conversion? Like, what other tax advantages can he take advantage of that he's not currently utilizing?
And you know, Susan, one of the things that drew you into the process was similar to Corey's issue. It's there's things that you can help them with that I can't help them with. There's things that Corey can help them with that I can't help them as the financial advisor with. And it's a matter of showing the potential solutions that they've never even knew existed, right?
Correct.
Well, and I find the most valuable in this situation when people are kind of unexpectedly retiring halfway through the year or somewhere through the year, their withholdings are going to change.
Correct.
And so the best thing as an advisor that I can do in that moment is not tell them about the newest, latest investment or the newest, hottest fund.
Susan's kind of like their new, bright, shiny, awesome green jacket payroll department.
I need to make sure that we're getting the tax people in there to make sure, okay, here's the last paycheck stub, so we know how much in taxes there was withheld, and then you can kind of put together an estimate to see, are they going to get a refund or are they going to owe, right?
Correct. It's like, I mean, literally going through and doing like a quick tax return, you know, and just saying, hey, this is where we think you're going to land. You know, do you need to pay in more or not?
And we see all the time, it's not easy for people to try to do on their own because we don't trust our own numbers. We trust a professional's numbers. Right?
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Do you find people get any benefit from going through tax planning and seeing anything and benefiting from that?
I do, because a lot of times, you know, they come in and they're like, oh, well, I had withholdings, you know, so I should be fine. Well, it's not just about the withholdings, it's about the big picture. What else is going on that's going to affect your income and taxes at the end of the year.
And of course, you're overseeing us as the advisors, helping us make sure we don't do any tax things that are going to blow up in someone's plan.
One thing that kind of scared me was David's going from a 2-income stream household to a 5-income stream household. David's going to be generating 3 or 4 income streams, pension, 401k, social. I mean, it's a big change, and this is where Susan steps in.
And then it's so valuable to have this whole resource here available for the people we're helping. And that's why we work together as this team day in, day out, because it can feel so isolating when your retirement doesn't seem to be coming together. And maybe it feels like you haven't done enough or didn't make the right decisions earlier. But let me tell you this, guys, you don't have to do it alone. It can help to have a whole team working together for your retirement plans. And if you'd like to set up a 15-minute introductory phone call with Market Advisor Group just to see if we could be the team for you, please reach out right now at 833-MAG-REPORT. That's 833-MAG-REPORT. And don't forget to check out us on YouTube. We upload all of our episodes weekly there for you to watch on demand. Just go to YouTube and search Ion Retirement. That's all the time we have for this episode. I've been filling in here for Rick Everett. He's on vacation.
Admirably so, Matt.
Thanks for tuning in. I'm Matt Goolsby, along with the entire panel. We're reminding you we're here to keep an eye on retirement.
Unless otherwise indicated, all client and prospect names mentioned on this show have been changed to protect the identities of the individuals discussed. Investment advisory services are offered through Foundations Investment Advisors LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. The content provided is intended for informational and educational purposes only. The views, statements, and opinions expressed herein are those of the individual speakers and not necessarily those of Foundations and its affiliates. The information contained herein does not constitute an offer to sell any securities or represent an express or implied opinion or endorsement of any specific investment opportunity, offering, or issuer. Any discussion of performance or returns are not indicative of future results. Each individual investor situation is different, and any ideas provided may not be appropriate for your particular circumstances. Foundations only transacts business in the states where it is registered or excluded or exempt from registration requirements. Registration as an investment advisor is not an endorsement of the firm by security regulators and does not mean the advisor has achieved a specific level of skill or ability. No legal or tax advice is provided. Always consult with a tax professional. Legal services are offered by Eidelman Law Firm. Tax services offered by Market Tax Services. Market Advisory Group does not provide legal or tax advice. Any comments regarding safe and secure investments and guaranteed income streams refer only to fixed insurance products. They do not in any way refer to investment advisory products. Rates and guarantees provided by insurance products and annuities are subject to the financial strength of the issuing insurance company, not guaranteed by any bank or the FDIC. The guest commentators featured in this show are not investment advisor representatives of Foundations and do not provide advisory services. Market Advisory Group does have several investment advisor representatives that can provide such services. This is not endorsed or affiliated with any U.S. government agency, the Social Security Administration, or associated with any federal Medicare program. We do not offer every plan available in your area. Any information we provide is limited to those plans we do offer in your area. Please contact Medicare.gov or 1-800-MEDICARE to get information on all of your options. A Roth conversion may not be suitable for your situation. The primary goal in converting retirement assets into a Roth IRA is to reduce the future tax liability on the distributions you take in retirement or on the distributions of your beneficiaries. The information provided is to help you determine whether or not a Roth IRA conversion may be appropriate for your particular circumstances. Please review your retirement savings, tax, and legacy planning strategies with your legal/tax advisor to be sure a Roth IRA conversion fits into your planning strategies. All rights reserved.
Why are all these words underlined?
Dear friend, I'm still being held against my will.
What do you expect of me?
I expect you to do your job. What's the going rate for ad in the Sunday edition?
What's the headline?
Sheriff ignores possible kidnapping.
Dear friend, please find me. Please free me. Because there's a monster who comes at night. And night never ends in this place.